Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with an athlete who has been competing since 2019 and has done 14 shows, although now 15 because of her pro debut, placing from the sea of 16 to first place at nationals, earning her pro card at the 2024 USAs. Outside of competing, she's a wife, sister, daughter, and dog mom to Charlie Brown. Such a cute name. Welcome to the show, Allegra Brown. How are you doing?
Hello, I am doing amazing. I am so happy to be here. And this is just like an absolute full circle moment because I've listened to you since my very first prep. So this is like just absolutely wild to be on here, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. You've been so supportive of the show forever. And so it feels like a full circle moment for me too.
Totally. Yeah. I was looking back at our messages, and it was 2020 that I was like, one day I'm going to be on this podcast.
I think when I reached back out to you, I responded to that message. It was like, so what do you say? Like, let's do this.
I know. I was like, it's time. My time has come.
I'm so happy. And then, of course, I've got to ask you if there's anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have before your heel hits the stage.
Of course, I knew you were going to ask this question.
Of course.
But, the ritual has kind of changed over the years, but it's always stayed pretty, like, obviously positive. Mm-hmm. But I get in the zone, listen to the music, and, I really just kind of reflect on that prep and what it took to get me to, that stage at that time. And just, put in my head, like, the hard work is done. It's time to have fun and show off what you created. And getting into the music a little bit, feeling yourself. And of course, people behind and in front are, depending on who you're with, of course, they're a little chattier or not, but, just really get in the zone, have a good time, and, kind of just let the chips fall where they may and let the pressure off.
Yeah, I think that it really is what it comes down to at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Like, you made it to the show. That's all you have control over is getting up there. Everything else will happen as it's meant to or as it does, but it's out of your control at that point. And
absolutely.
I also think it's a culmination of all that work that you've put in. And you've obviously been in this for a while. You've had many attempts at earning the pro card. You finally did. And then you just made your pro debut. So let's talk about your pro debut. You had decided, per Sandy's advice, that you were going to do this after winning your pro card, kind of see how you stacked up with the pros, see how you do, because you got great feedback at USAs. Mm-hmm. It was a matter of seeing how you did there. So what was it like? And what was your feedback? And how are you feeling now?
Well, I literally got home. Zach and I, my husband, got home last night at like 5:30 from Arizona. So we live up in Washington State in Kirkland. So it's not that bad of a flight. But so we got in last night. I went into the show with absolutely zero expectations. I wanted to just have a good time and learn. So the feedback I did receive from Sandy at USA's was, just go straight into a pro show. We want to see how you stack up. And the only way to do that is to be amongst the pros. And of course, as soon as USA's was over and I got that card, I, ran up to Sandy. She gave me a big hug and said, "You finally did it. Congratulations." Which was just, and if you know Sandy, she is very she's just happy to be there. So it was such a light to see her just give me a big hug and just say, "Congratulations, you did it. You did exactly what we asked you for." So that was awesome. And then of course, she said, go straight into the pro show, but I was like, okay, Sandy, back it up. Like, what physically do I need to work on, or if anything in the long run or what have you? And she said, the only thing we're was my rear delts.
Hmm.
So they were just a little too striated. And, looking back and talking to Dylan, my coach, and my husband, during the overall at USA's with, all the new pros, as they were turning us forward, back, walk to the back, all of those things, my physique got harder and harder and harder as we went on. So my body was just eating everything.
Yeah.
So my rear delt striations came out, my glute striations, and some hammy striations as well. So I knew I was on that line of like, "Ooh, we're getting too hard." So I knew that we just kind of had to keep filling out. So that was my feedback physically, and then just go straight into the pro show. So in a weird way, I will say I kind of manifested a little bit of this because earlier this year I was like, I knew I was going to do junior nats, but USA is, I've never done that show, and I was like, maybe we can test that one out if it's not my time at junior nats. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to plan for that or manifest it, then I kind of want to see what pro shows are after. So I already had kind of an idea that I wanted to do the Arizona Pro or the Rising Phoenix, especially because Dylan lives down in Scottsdale or in Arizona. So I was like, win-win. I get to see my coach again and do a pro debut with him. So we flew down there on Thursday. Like I said, going in absolutely zero expectations. I wanted to go in, I wanted to learn, I wanted to observe, I wanted to get great feedback and be that athlete that, I can just better myself, no matter what area that is in. So did the show, and I was looking forward to all of those like little things, like how athlete check-ins went, how the backstage was, things along those lines. And it was very calm. There are some things backstage, like usual, that are just a little chaotic. Like, okay, you got to stand here. When you get off stage, you got to come back here. Some of those things. But
Yes.
for the most part, it was calm, and I got my nerves out kind of with the first group call outs and comparisons, and then when I did my individual, I was definitely nervous. But it was so much fun just to experience it, and such a relaxing vibe going into it, having zero expectations. Because going into, if you need to be qualified for nationals, you go into a regional show and you have that expectation, or you're trying to earn that first or second place to get qualified. Then when you're qualified, now it's like, okay, my pro card's on the line. What do I got to do to get my pro card? So going into this one, it was just like, we'll see what happens and we'll get feedback and get better. So it was
That really
overall, it was a great experience.
did that relieve some of the pressure for you?
Yeah, a lot of pressure. It was like, because the hard work was done. I got the
Yeah.
card and I earned it, and I feel really good about it. And now it's like, okay, what can I do to be better? How can
Mm.
I improve, with all aspects, physical, mental, everything, to, embody what it is to be an IFBB pro?
And what does that mean to you?
Living the lifestyle and being
Mhm.
open and transparent with what I do. Once you earn your pro card, nothing changes, right? I mean, besides my Instagram handle, which I was very excited for, getting that little IFBB pro in there.
Uh-huh.
But I came back from it and I was like, back to work. Nothing changed. I'm still a
Yep.
sister. I'm still a daughter. I'm still a wife. Like you said, a fur mama. So,
Hmm.
you know, really just living the lifestyle on and off stage, I think is, what I plan. I mean, I've done it for so long that like you can't expect to be a pro without living it first. So I feel like I've been in that lifestyle for quite some time.
Definitely. So, do you have aspirations now that you are a pro?
Oh man. So yes, I do. Getting my feedback from this show for my pro show, it was actually, obviously, as all bikini athletes know, we need a little bit more 3D projection to the glutes. So that is definitely something I need to work on. But also, my abs were a little washed out, and that was because we were pushing food so much to stay full. So we kind of had to sacrifice a little bit of that conditioning for the fullness,
Yeah.
which I and my coach very very okay with that.
Mhm.
So my aspirations as a pro is, I do want to come back to the stage, with the best package that I can and show that I can take time off if I need to and grow. Because that's part of the sport. You need to take the feedback, and it's not like, they're attacking you in any way. It's
Yeah,
just, there you go. You need bigger glutes, bottom line.
that's
So,
right.
we are going to take some time off, and work on a little bit of life season and grow and have, just kind of transition a little bit because I have been competing and prepping since February. So,
Yeah, your
mhm,
season has been long, but you made the decision to do the pro debut so you could see how
mhm,
you stacked up. You are now working on growing, getting
yeah.
more 3D glutes. And so that means food, it means lifting heavy, I'm imagining, or at least hard. Are you guys taking a similar approach to previous growth seasons, or are you guys going to take a different approach?
That's a good question. So, seeing as I just stepped off stage, some of it is still in the works of what we're going to
Yeah.
be doing. However, like I said, I do want to take the time to grow. And, what we did in previous improvement seasons was actually we pushed hard. We
Mhm.
got weight up, we got food really high. And I think and training intensity as well. That was, the biggest difference between previous seasons and, this one was actually, hiring Bryce. So with
Mhm.
Progressive Performance and really, really honing in on my training intensity and honestly tempo and slowing things down in the gym.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. While also getting food pretty high. So then the season was, I didn't really feel like I was in prep too much, because food stayed high. My training intensity was already there, and we were very focused on what my feedback was from last season.
Mhm.
So going into this one, we don't need to push as hard, and training intensity is still up there. It has been this entire prep. That won't change. I absolutely love the gym. That's why I got into competing. So that won't change. But I do know my food will be getting pretty high because we started reversing with my second show pretty much
Yeah.
this season. And we were pushing food. So this improvement season is definitely going to be a little bit different. It's not necessarily going to be a bulk. It's going
Right.
to be just a slow and easy and really focus on, growing those glutes and making sure that I stay proportionate and balanced from top to bottom.
So how did your training intensity look prior to the now new and improved training intensity?
Yeah, I think it was, hiring Bryce was just it best thing I could have done, for training, because it really taught me that I do need to slow things down, because previously it would be, okay, we're going through the motions, we do the same thing, it is what it is. And of course, like I do have, training certificates and nutrition certificates and things like that. So I'm not new to the training aspect, but having that accountability of I have to check in with him as well as, Dylan every week and making sure that my form is correct, my weight is going up, thing depending on the time of season, of course. But things like that, has just changed. I think, like I said, having that accountability is a big win, because not only are you, sending him videos of, okay, does this look right? Is this right? But you have to really hone in on your mind muscle connection. And I think that is something that I didn't really do. I mean, I did, but not as intentional as previous preps, where it was like, oh, like I said, we're going through the motions and I know I need to grow glutes. So let's just throw weight on the hip thrust.
Mhm.
And now it's like, no, bring the weight down, focus on, your intent, squeeze that muscle that you're trying to engage, and then move on. It's not like, oh, I only have an hour, let's just rip through it. It's like, nope, you're going to get, even if you just have an hour, you're going to do what you can with intensity.
Nice.
And, and that's the biggest difference for training, from improvement season to improvement season.
I love that point because as athletes, we want to check the boxes. Okay, I did my
Mm-hmm.
workout, I did my nutrition, I ate my meal. But your training is very different than eating meal one, two, three, four, five, six.
Very.
It's
Yeah,
like you do have to show up and put in a level of effort and intensity and mindfulness. And I think the same should apply to meals as well, but it is a
of
bit
course.
different. And with training too, you brought up such a great point, which is time constraints. And I think a lot of athletes are managing job, relationship, children, that sometimes it really does look like I have an hour. But because the mentality of checking boxes is so strong, it's like, well, I'm just going to get through everything instead of going, okay, I got through three of these movements
Hmm.
and they were the ones that were going to incur the most growth or have the most potential for growth. And I did them with really great execution and I don't have any more time. And accepting that instead of that all or nothing mentality of, well, I need to do all of it and not even do it
All at
well.
once
Yeah, just to
and
do
get it
it.
done.
Yeah. Such a great point because that's something I think
Yeah,
that gets overlooked pretty often.
I think so too. And it's, I will say I'm very fortunate that, the job that I have and the lifestyle that I live, I plan for that. I do plan for, it's a mental thing for me. I want to
Mhm.
get in the gym. I want to feel good. So
Yeah.
personally, I make time for that. And it's
Mhm.
not something that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to squeeze it in. It's like, no, that's actually like a part of my daily schedule. So I think of it as if you do have, a desk job or something like that, or like most of us competitors, we're very type A
Mhm.
and we do have, scheduled things in our day, but why would
Yeah.
you not do that for yourself for working out, and training? And so, you have these appointments. So make yourself an appointment. And, if your workout is 75 minutes, allocate that time for 75 minutes if that's really what your intention is. It's we're in charge of our own schedule, so I think it's just really important to be real with yourself. And if you allow that time, you can give it to yourself. It's
Mhm.
not just a, okay, let's go to the gym, let's do this thing. It's not like that. And as a athlete and somebody, like I said, I got into the sport because I absolutely love the gym. It's a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
And that's just something that makes me feel good, as like mentally and physically.
Similarly, we have interests outside of this sport. And I
Hmm.
think that sometimes as athletes, we do have to sacrifice those interests in a prep, like hiking or going out into nature to do, like, I don't know, I for cardio and prep, for example, it was rare that I would
Mm,
just like go for a walk. But in improvement season, that's the only cardio I'm doing. And I
right,
enjoy.
you're getting your steps in.
Yeah, or like I do pickleball, or I mow the lawn,
Yes.
like those types of things. And I'm like, this is fine because we're not trying to like push it. So I think
Mm-mm.
sometimes it's important also in prep and in improvement season to schedule in those other activities that we like just for life's sake, like the active life sake, but also
Yeah.
recognizing prep will come with demands that will require a lot more of that rigidity. And something I've really embraced, and I'm curious if you've had to do this too, or if this changes for you in improvement season. Like the gym is part of my life. It's something that I do and I enjoy doing.
Hmm.
But I'm kind of at this point too where when I'm in improvement season, if I have an opportunity to go somewhere with my family at the time that I would normally maybe go to the gym in a prep, I'm like, this is like my only time. And what if we get back
Yeah.
late and then so I'll probably go to the gym and then I'll come to the last bit of it. But in improvement season, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to this thing with my family and then I'll come back and if I have to do it later or if I have to do it tomorrow, it's fine. So I wonder for you if you have any changes in maybe the way that you think or you approach these things with balancing life and your love for fitness and the sport from prep to improvement season.
Yeah, absolutely. So you bring up a good point about balance too. So when you're in prep, balance is kind of non-existent in a way. If you really want to if you really want to do well, go far, if this is something that you want to really pursue.
Right.
But in improvement season, I think of it more as harmony. I
Hmm.
want things to harmonize together. So like you said, if there's a family event, family is everything for me,
Mhm.
all year round, like
That's
not just
right.
improvement season, or in season, of course. And I have an amazing family that supports me through my season. And I couldn't be more grateful for them. But if there was something that comes up, and this has happened where it's a nice day outside in Washington. It doesn't happen all that often,
Yeah.
but when it does, we want to capitalize on that. And luckily, I live like not even 5 minutes away from my parents who live on Lake Washington. So, when it's a
Nice.
nice day and they're like, hey, we're taking the boat out, you want to come? I'm like, okay, yeah, like what time,
Yes.
where do I have to be? So my mindset does change a little bit during improvement season.
Yeah,
It's more so like, you know what, whatever happens, happens. However, I do have my non-negotiables.
that's
So,
right.
if it was, let's just say we're going boating in the morning, I already know no matter what, improvement season, off, whatever you want to call it, I always wake up and I go for a walk, whether that is outside or if that's in my garage on my tread. So no matter what, I know I will get a little bit of movement in before I do anything. That's just how I'm structured, how I've
Yeah.
always structured my days is like, that's just how it is. So I
Mhm.
know I'll have some movement in, but I will, put some of that training not on the back burner, but, I'll put it aside and either come back to it later that day, which is not always, I will say, not always my favorite thing because I
Same.
like training at my usual times. I'm very,
Same.
yeah, we're very scheduled, very routine. So it will, if that was the case, but family comes first for me. So especially in improvement season, because, sometimes that does get sacrificed in prep. And whether you want to hear it or not, there are some things that you're going to have to sacrifice. And going out with friends, family, you have to be able to set boundaries and say no. And, being in that improvement season is my time to give back,
Mhm.
in whatever way that is. If that's going out to coffee with a friend, if that's literally taking my dog for a walk outside with my husband, some things like that. But it really, you got to think about those non-negotiables in your improvement season, because you do have to give back to those who have supported you through however long you've been in prep for. So the mindset does change a little bit. However, like I said, with training, it's so good for me mentally. So,
Mhm.
and my family knows that too, outside of prep. Like, I've been an athlete my whole life and I got it from my mama. So I mean, if anything, she's actually the one in improvement season that's like, well, I actually have to go to the gym, so
Love it.
we'll go boating after, or we'll go get coffee after we train. Do you want to train together? What's your lift like today?
Nice.
So my mom and I are very similar in that aspect, so it's very helpful. But when push comes to shove, if something comes up and it's family oriented and family surrounding,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
I totally get that too. And even in prep, like you said, you're sacrificing some, but there are times in prep as well where obviously emergencies is a
Yeah.
non-negotiable.
Yeah.
But when it's like a family experience that is unique, you just have to handle it differently. And you brought up setting
Yeah.
boundaries, which I think is really key too. There's expectations and there's um maybe education that kind of goes into preparing people for what to
Yeah.
expect and how you're going to be navigating it. And something that stood out to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because I was trying to do the Instagram stalking math on this,
Yeah.
but I think you started dating your now husband when you were in
Mhm.
like an improvement or growth season. So how did you prepare him to, adjust to the prep life?
You know what? We started dating peak of 2020. Um,
Okay.
the peak of 2020, August 1st to be exact.
Oh,
But yeah, so we started dating in August, peak of 2020, all the COVID things. And
yeah.
I think at that point, I was 2 or 3 weeks out from, and you know how 2020 was with shows. So
You were two to
they were
three
all,
weeks out every week.
yeah. And like, then you could have been 4 weeks out and you wouldn't have
Exactly.
known.
Yep.
So, um, so I was a couple weeks out from, at that time it was Junior USA's, because it had moved from, May to August because
Yeah.
of everything that had gone on. So I was just a few weeks out from that. And then I also knew I was going to do North Americans under the big tent, which I know you were there for as
I
well.
actually wasn't there, but I know
Oh,
a
you
lot of
weren't.
people who were there for that. I was
Okay.
at
So that,
USA's though in 2020.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were at one of them, but that Big
Yep.
Ten that was an experience
I've
to say the
heard.
least. Oh yes, all the fun memes. But yeah, so when I met Zach, I was actually, in prep for that show, and I was a very lean bean,
I bet.
especially compared to now. Because it was one of my first, I think it was actually my second national show,
Mhm.
but I was lean as hell and just meh, like,
I
I
know.
was just so
I
small.
know the look.
So yeah, you know. Um, so when I met him, I that's what I looked like, and he just accepted me for me and knew that this was he had said this, he was like, oh, this is a phase, right? And by phase he means season, right?
Yes.
So I will be growing after this,
Yeah.
or adding weight on a healthy amount, of course. But yeah, so he actually can't, his brother had dabbled a little bit in bodybuilding. And Zach also, before he met me, tracked his macros, training, like absolutely everything. I say he's a competitor without stepping on stage. He just doesn't
Because
get
he
lean.
does
But
he does jujitsu, right?
yeah, he's BJJ. So he did his first competition a few months ago. And I will say it was so much fun being like his stage mom
Yeah.
because I was like, yes, it's not on me right now. Like,
That's
do
awesome.
what you want to do and I'll support you and be there for you, of course. So that was a lot of fun just being able to like, see how he reacts to a few things. Like, for BJJ, they had to make weight.
Yeah.
So, and he signed up for the competition like maybe 10 days before or something like
Oh.
that. So he was in a diet for a couple of days and he was like, man, I gotta make this weight. I'm like, yeah, so imagine that, but like 6 months of prep.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to be able to, like I said, be a stage mom for him and see how excited and nervous he got and where he had to be at what time and check-ins and all that. So that was
Oh.
fun. But we have our things, and there's a lot of similarities we found with BJJ and bodybuilding. So we have our sports, right? So I
Yeah.
really really like that. But since he did come from that macro tracking training background, he already understood what it was like to be an athlete.
Mhm.
And I think that has helped our relationship just tremendously because we have both been in some of the suck, let's say, where,
Yeah.
we have dieted before and, you get to choose your hard, but that's how it is. And, I got lucky with him. But yeah, so he's been by me since 2020 and yeah, wouldn't want to change anything.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, that clarifies things because I was curious about if there was a transition time, but it sounds like he met you. I mean, he met you at a time when you were really close to your show. So, what was your
Yeah.
first date?
Oh my gosh, so funny. Um, so yeah, peak, and also during that time, I will say, anybody that knows Washington State, we were in a complete shutdown. Like
Yeah.
the gym that we went to was not supposed to be open. It was an underground gym.
Yeah.
So that's also how I knew I was like, oh, he's serious about his fitness. So because he's
Yeah.
here, because no other gyms were open, so that was the only one you can go to.
Yeah.
Um, but at the time, I was with a different coach and different team, and I actually got refeeds. I got steak, potato, cake, and wine refeeds.
Wow.
And I know it was
Cake.
looking back, I'm like, wow, this is wow. My body loves sugar. It's so weird.
That's great.
So I got cake and frosting, all the things. So I told him, I was like, okay, I get refeeds on Thursdays as of right now, and I only go to this restaurant and I order this, this, and this. And he was like, okay, say less, we'll do it. So we went out on a Thursday night,
Love
like,
it.
and I got my steak, I got my glass of wine, I got my potato, and, downed the whole meal. And of
Of
course, he looks at
course.
me like, no, yeah, you're not a salad girl. I'm like, no,
No.
I want all the food. And then, that date lasted, we like shut down the restaurant and it was like a
Oh,
5 hour ordeal. And, yeah, I just knew, we both went into it just saying to each other, like, I'm not here to mess around. Like,
right.
I want a relationship. And we went through essentially a checklist, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You want
this is what
kids?
we
What's your
want.
finances like? Where's your
Yeah.
credit
What are
score?
your what's your 5 year plan? What's this? What's
Yeah.
your blood type?
Yeah.
Let me know all the details. But yeah, it was perfect because I mean, we both, I just, when you know, and I didn't know that until that point with relationships. I was like, oh, I'm meant to be here and I'm meant to be with
Wow.
this person. And yeah, like I said, I wouldn't change anything, even during the peak of COVID.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Had you had we don't have to talk too long about this. I don't want to
Yeah.
distract or make you feel uncomfortable, but had you had
Yeah.
relationships prior to him?
Yeah. So I've, dabbled in some relationships, of course, but, relating to bodybuilding and relationships, I was with somebody who, um, did support me in interesting ways, but also had made certain comments that was just not necessary.
Hmm.
During a prep, as you know, you bring your food with you. Like
Yeah.
that's part of it. And I remember this one guy, and he was like, "When are you done with this bodybuilding thing? You're embarrassing me bringing your food." I was like, "You're
Oh,
not the one." So,
yeah.
you know, um, and that happens, and
Yes.
I'm glad it happened the way it did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So, but yeah, I have been in some relationships with that one where I was just like, nope, you're not the one for me.
Yeah, that makes it obvious.
Yeah, I was like, okay, bye, thank you.
Yeah, next.
Yeah, thank you. Next.
Yeah. So, yeah, you guys obviously support each other a lot, and you seem to enjoy traveling while competing.
Mhm.
And that's something that I love about this sport is if you do
Yes.
go different places for shows, you get to enjoy that place. And even if it's just walking around the town, it's really nice. So, how do you make the most out of a show weekend?
Oh, that's hard sometimes too, right? So
It can
I can
be.
take, let's see, what did we do? We'll do, I'll talk about Cal State this year,
Yeah.
Cal State championships down in Anaheim. So my brother, excuse me, and his now wife live down in Anaheim. So, when we plan out these shows, it's like, okay, who's in the area?
Mm.
What do we want to see? And, what do we want to eat?
Yeah.
So that's essentially what, we look for.
Experiences and
Yeah,
the
exactly. All the
culture.
experiences. So we went down to Anaheim, and I had padded a day. I usually, if it's a travel, and it always is with these shows because we don't have too many up here.
Yeah.
I usually leave on like a Thursday, and then I'll stay to a Sunday. So I have plenty of time to, get acclimated to, if it's the time zone, make sure my meals are in check for that area and all of those things. But with Anaheim, I was like, it's California. I'll just quick little flight down. We'll come in on Thursday. I get to see my brother. I get to see his wife. I get to like hang out. So the Thursday is usually fun, and then Friday is like off the feet, besides
Mhm.
training. And then for that instance, of course, we stayed until Monday. So then I had all day Sunday with my brother and his wife,
Oh,
and my mom actually flew down too, to
awesome.
see the show. So on Sunday we went to Disney,
Mhm.
because Zach had never been. My husband Zach. My brother's name is Zach too. So
Oh, okay.
um, just say, yeah. So my husband Zach had never been, but my brother Zach is in the film industry down there, and him and his wife absolutely love Disney. So I was like, we gotta go. You gotta go at
Yeah.
least once. So it's things like that where whatever area we're in, I like to stay an extra day or so after the actual show, because before you can't really do anything. You can't
Yeah.
eat anything. You're on a time crunch. You got athlete check-ins. You got check-ins with your coach.
And then you're
All of
laying
those
in a
things.
tan
Yeah,
and
and
not
you're like,
trying
okay,
not
just
to
don't
sweat.
sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in those hot climates, like going to Chattanooga this year. I'm like, ooh,
Oh,
that
I
looks
bet.
a little spicy.
Yeah.
But and we love to travel. I will say right now, I'm almost tapped out of travel because
I
of
bet.
my four shows this year. But we really try to make a weekend out of it because we're already going. And usually it's in places that we don't really travel to, like Chattanooga. Who's gonna
Yeah.
go and check and be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go to Chattanooga. It's like, no, you're probably gonna go to Nashville.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
so when we went to Chattanooga, for example, it was just, we had an extra day and we walked around, you know, checked out the area a little bit, and really just got to enjoy, with every show, get to enjoy the aftermath. And you do have that post show hangover, so it's just
Mhm.
like, all the emotions kind of come out, all of the feelings, and you really get to reflect on the weekend. And I get to reflect usually if it's with Zach, then I get to reflect with my best friend. You know, I get to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. You know, this was my feedback, but you know, X, Y, or Z is what we should do next. So it's really just a good time for us to not be home and be somewhere else where we can just be us. So I really enjoy that. And he's been my stage mom since we've been together. But before that, my mom was my
Was the stage?
momager.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
she's
momager.
my momager. Yeah, absolutely. She has gone
Awesome.
to almost every single one of my shows. Has been my number one supporter. So
Oh,
when her and I would go to shows too, we would tack on an extra day and we would go shopping or we would,
yeah.
you know, experience the area. Like anytime we went down to California, or not California, Orlando for some of the class shows that we've done in the past. You know, her and I would go down and we would just have a blast for a weekend and be like, okay, what are we going to do this weekend? So
Awesome.
anytime there's a show somewhere else, which is most of the time, we make the most out of it and just get to, there's nothing else going on. It's
Yeah.
just that time with that person or those people. And obviously, those hopefully are the people that really care about you and support you. So it's just, it's time for you guys, you know? So that's what we like to do.
When I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology and went on to earn my clinical mental health counseling degree and even become a national certified counselor, I knew I wanted to bridge the gap between competitors and mental health professionals. Too often, athletes are told that they can't compete and have a healthy relationship with food or their body. And I absolutely disagree with that. I have helped thousands of women globally to build more than just a body by combining psychology, personal development, mindfulness, and my signature peace through growth process. If you are struggling with the post show blues, or you're struggling with adherence to your prep, or any aspect of your relationship with food, your body image, or overall commitment to your goals, I have tons of resources available for you over at www.celestial.fit. Things like a free food relationship coaching series, free post show blues coaching series, a full competitor card deck with statements to use for affirmations, journal prompts to go through, and even action and behavior changes that you can implement right away. I really believe that by prioritizing the inner work and developing a healthy mindset, competitors can have a more fulfilling journey. And I know the mental side of this sport is really key to establishing longevity, ending the yo-yoing from show to show, and really establishing goals that span well beyond the stage. If you're looking for that support, head over to www.celestial.fit where you can find tons of free resources or even apply to work with me. I think that's so awesome. And
Yeah.
you speak to an important point too, which is making the most of that time. And sometimes that comes with emotions or processing feelings or
Hmm.
considering what's the next step and having those conversations too. And you've said that you have loved every aspect of the journey, including the losses. And you expressed that when you were on your road to pro, people were telling you, when you get it, you'll appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah.
So, how did it feel when you actually won your pro card? And what were some of those lessons that you learned along the way that did make it sweeter?
Yeah. So oh my gosh, when I got that, it's still kind of like surreal
Yeah.
in a way. I'm not going to lie. I look back and someone's like, oh, congratulations. I'm like, on what? Oh, I did that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
won
thing
pro
I've been
status
working for.
for a long time. Yeah. So, yeah. So when I got, you know, for prejudging during USA's, I was on the outside. I got moved straight to the center. And that was the first time at a national show that I was in that box. And it was just a validating feeling. It
Mhm.
was everything kind of culminating together from previous complete year off seasons to shorter improvement seasons, but lifting heavier, winning an overall, but not even placing top five at a national show. It was one of those moments that was really just a surreal, validating, satisfying
Mhm.
moment. And you know, when I left prejudging, you know, top two at USA's goes pro. But who doesn't obviously want to win and take first?
Yeah.
But I was just so grateful. I was so happy. And I stepped off that stage and just like looked up and was like, wow, we did it. Like, it's, of course it's not over till it's over. And everyone was like, congratulations. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. Because like we still got finals, even though we know sometimes they don't rejudge. However, it's not over till it's over. I don't have that
Yeah.
card in my hand. I didn't get the trophy or anything. So wait, just wait. And so when I got off, and the first thing I did was I saw Zach and I just ran right to him, gave him a huge hug, and was like, "We did it!" Like we made it to the first call outs, splitting center, like all the things. And of course, Dylan was right there, like, "We fucking did it!" Like, it was just such a good, like I said, it was just validating that, I took the time, I took the feedback, and we executed. So it was, and like I said, it's still just kind of a surreal moment to me. It hasn't fully hit, but
Yeah.
it was awesome. It was so good to know that your hard work pays off, and no matter what, you need to believe in yourself and keep moving forward. The sport is not for the faint of heart. You're gonna lose more than you win, and those losses are learnings. So some of the learnings that I did have, along the way is literally do not give up. There's going to be so many points where you're going to lose. Like there's no nice way to say it. You're going to lose in this sport, and you have to have tough skin to receive that feedback and execute. So definitely learning to take your time and understand the sport and understand the division that you're in. My personal favorite look is a little more conditioned, and I like the shredded look. I think it's just a badass look, and it's cool, right? Like
Yeah.
you put yourself through all of this and you're like, yeah, I did that. But
Mhm.
I learned this season specifically that that's not the look. That's not the bikini look. They want to keep it full. They want to keep it, balanced, proportionate, as Adam Bonilla says, the pretty muscle.
Yeah.
And keep it full and balanced, like I said. So, learning the sport and being a student of the sport, and just applying that to the next show, because you can only take one show at a time.
Such great points. And I think through competing, you become like a different version of yourself. Like you're still you, but you develop more, you learn more, it
Mm-hmm.
reveals things to you. Maybe it shines light on things you haven't looked at before. So, can you identify any ways that competing has maybe grown you as a person or influenced your mental and emotional health?
Yeah, I have learned so much about myself through this sport. I think that is the biggest thing of like just coming out of it is, I've learned really how to time manage.
Yeah.
Um, and write, I'm a physical person, so I like writing down and checking things off. So
Yes.
being able to do that with certain experiences is a big is, I learned a lot from that. But going back to um, let's see. Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry, lost my train of thought. Gone.
No, that's okay. As far as the mental and emotional growth through
Oh,
this.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
mental and emotional. Yeah. So, like I said, the time management thing was a big deal, and
Uh-huh.
really honing in on who I am,
Yeah.
and what that means to me, and what my aspirations are outside of competing while also in competing. So, being able to identify who I am without the stage, I think is a big, big factor too, because we have lives. This is not my full time job. We have lives outside the stage, and I want to make sure that, you know, I embody that person who I have created. And through competing, I've also been able to grow in my confidence.
Hmm.
It's made me really appreciate what my body can do. I am just, bodies are incredible. We go through these phases of building and cutting and growing and blah, blah,
Yeah.
maintaining all the things. Um, and it really has made me appreciate just my body and like who I am as a person. And, it's made me come out to be, I feel, a better person because I'm able to compartmentalize a few things in my own life so then I can give back in other areas, like to my family, to my husband,
Mhm.
my doggo, things like that. And I think competing just really brings out who you really are, and you learn fast about
Yeah.
either who you don't want to be or who you do want to be.
True.
And, being able to embody and embrace some of the suck really shows your mental fortitude towards anything. I mean, how you do one thing is how you do a lot of things, if not everything.
Hmm.
So if you're that go, 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 go getter in just bodybuilding, things are going to suffer on the other side. So being able to, like I said, harmonize those things, I think is a big win. And, bodybuilding has definitely helped harmonize my life a little bit more.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. Like it in the process of becoming the best you can be for the competing aspect, you
Mhm.
learn so much about yourself in other ways. And like you said, the bodybuilding journey is not just the cutting. It's the growing, it's the maintenance, it's the health phases, it's all of these different,
Everything.
it's all of it. And there's going to be times that it's really uncomfortable. And those are the times that you're a lot more of your strength, your grit, your belief, your confidence is forged because you're facing a challenge head on. And you're probably not going to see the results of facing that for a while, which is part of what I love about bodybuilding is that's like it's
Yeah.
delayed.
Yeah, it's this is a delayed gratification sport. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go into an improvement season, I'm gonna grow, I'm gonna go pro. It's like all of that, do that over year after year after year, and you'll have a
Correct.
better appreciation of when you do, earn that pro status or whatever your goal is. But there's always gonna be something, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
right.
I love that. It's
So
it's
you
just
had
delayed gratification.
that is exactly it. And there were times too in your journey where you had said you were working, like you changed coaches eventually. You had worked with different people, you took different approaches. How did you know when you found the right coach for you? And maybe how could someone listening who is trying to understand if they've found the right coach or if they're looking for someone, like what could they be looking for that maybe you identified?
Yeah. So when I was looking into, different coaches and things like that, I set up interviews with them, right? So I think that is like step number one. Get on the
Yeah.
phone. Get on the phone with these people. You are going to be sending them check-in pictures of you half naked for 16 weeks, hopefully longer, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you get on the phone with these people. Um, and so I had set up a phone interview with Dylan. And I had told him everything that I have gone through with previous coaches, my training, my physique, my food, my all of it. And I, man, it was such a good conversation because he was so open and honest with absolutely everything. Like, this is what I would do with you. We would change this, we would add this. But not only was he, I mean, I'm just using him as an example because that's what I did. Um, but he went into asking questions about my personal life. What do I do for work? Am I dating? And back then, was I dating anybody? What are my non-negotiables? Like, what are your actual goals? The coach that will fit with you and you will fit with them understands you from a bodybuilding side, but also a personal side.
That's right.
And they know your daily routine. Like, if you're a nighttime nurse, let's say, you definitely tell your coach that because your training in nutrition and cardio is going to be way different than somebody like me who has a 9 to 5. So, because I can fit in my cardio in the morning and I train in the afternoon. So really just being open and honest with that coach. And, also besides talking to that coach, talk to the teammates, that's what I did. I talked to a few people that, were being coached by Dylan. And I was like, what do you like? What's the peak week protocol? What is the cardio protocol? Things along those lines. And then also I talked to people who left Bare Aesthetics and I was like, why did you leave?
Yeah.
So getting both sides of things, because there's always two sides to a story.
Yeah.
But really finding that person that cares about you. It's hard the first, conversation, of course, on the phone. Like, definitely takes time to build, like anything. You
Yeah.
got to build on the relationship. But it was like going back to when you know, I got off
Mhm.
that phone with Dylan and I was like, he's my guy. Like
Yeah.
he understands where I come from. He understands, what I did to get to this point, and he cares about me off stage and cares that I still have relationships with my family, my friends, things like that. So if you're looking for a new coach, make sure you go through everything. It's not an interview for that coach, it's an interview for you. Ask all the questions, macros versus meal plans.
Mhm.
Are you a stair stepper cardio? Are you a treadmill? Of course, all of those things vary as you get into prep. But ask all the questions because it doesn't hurt. If you don't ask it, you're not going to know.
Mhm.
So really just, you know, pen and paper, write it down and
Right.
come up with your 10 top questions and then see where the conversation goes. So just ask questions and be curious is what I would suggest.
Yeah, I could not agree more. That was
Yeah.
such good insight. And you're interviewing them basically
Yeah.
because you're hiring them. They're your
Mm-hmm.
employee is not the right word, but if you were to look at it like that, like let's say you're employing someone in this journey, you want to trust them that they're aligned with your vision, right? Just like if you have a
Yeah.
company, do you align with these values? Do you have what I'm looking for? Great.
Yeah.
Can you satisfy these needs? And when same thing goes with coaching, and there's that element of the when you know too,
Mm-hmm.
and trusting that, and also being okay if it's not what you expected with either communicating your needs or finding something different. It can be difficult, but it can really pay off. I think if I could go back, I would have told myself, don't spin your wheels for too long out of like desire to be
Mm-hmm.
loyal, instead it's okay to ask for what you really need. So I think your
That's
advice
a
is
good point
great.
too. That's a good point. This is you. This is for you. This is, when you leave another coach for one, you got to remember it's your journey. And you have to remember
Yeah.
that. It's not like, oh, I just don't like you. It's like, I want to try a different approach and I want to see what else is out there and see if there's something better for me.
Mm,
It's nothing against anybody else. It's, for me, I was like, we're going to try a more scientific approach. And that's exactly why, I ended up with Dylan. I wanted, data to back a few things up or most of it up. And there we have it.
mm.
But you got to remember it's for you. And you, again, it goes back to having tough skin in the sport. You got
Yeah,
to make that breakup happen if if
so
you want to be the
true.
best version of yourself.
So true. Yeah, this sport really does require tough skin.
You have to. You're literally being judged on what you look like.
Literally. Yeah, literally. I try to like tell myself, I'm like, the cool thing about bodybuilding is I'm choosing to be judged for how I look
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
bullying, which is like it's not my choice.
No. No, you're choosing to go up on that stage and the little meat market is like, okay, what are we getting
Yeah,
here?
which
So
best fits our criteria.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but it's
Exactly.
criteria you want to meet. So it's like
Yeah.
so great. And that furthers the point of why it's important to have people you trust in that journey and to
Very much.
communicate those needs and ask the questions. And I'm going to just kind of shamelessly plug this. It's not really any offer, but I did a bunch of coaches series. I interviewed Dylan, by the way.
Yep.
You know that,
Oh, I heard.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so sweet when was it the Dennis James that I competed and he came down the stairs and him and Lauren saw me and they like were like Celeste and they gave me a cookie and they took pictures with me. I thought it was so sweet of them. It was like, wow,
They're
they're
awesome.
so energized and sweet. Um
Energized is a great word to use for them. They are very energized. And
I
I
was like,
absolutely
whoa,
I love
where'd
it.
you get that energy? I know it's not
Oh,
from the cookie.
oh, of course not. They got to bottle that up and sell it because those two together they're incredible, incredible humans.
Aw, yeah. So I was gonna say too, like with that coaches series that I did, if you guys are
Yeah.
trying to interview coaches, listen to those and write down the questions that I asked
Yeah.
the coaches or like go to the blog where I put it because those are I will pat myself on the back. I think those are great questions that athletes should be asking coaches prior to hiring them for expectations. So if you're not sure what questions to even ask a coach, that's a good place to start. Or even with the things that Allegra said, like what is it that you're looking for from peak week to process to cardio to balancing other things in life. So with that being said, something that I wanted to go back to was maybe moments of doubt or questioning how things would go, because you made these changes, you started taking a better approach, you would really committed to your growth. You identify that when you won your pro card, you're like, I did all this work. I'm
Mhm.
confident in that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you had gone from an eighth place all the way to gaining 6 pounds and winning your pro card. So I'm imagining there were times through these ups and downs that maybe you questioned a little bit and maybe you didn't. But did you ever question, like, can I do this? Is this going to
Oh my
happen?
gosh. I love that you brought this up because this I feel like is not a hot topic to talk
No.
about because it's tough. It is. It
Yes.
really is tough. This I will say, and Dylan knows this, but this was the first season where I had to, and I tell him everything. Like I said, I'm very open, very honest. I don't really hide anything from him. And this was the first time I told him, I'm like, I think they call it imposter syndrome. I think
Hmm.
I have a little bit of that right now. And that was when I was going from Cal State earlier, my very first show of this season,
Yeah.
which was the regional show, and going into junior nats because last year after stepping off stage, I knew I wanted to do junior nationals again. It was such a good show, so well ran. I was
Hmm.
like, it was a fun show. So I knew I wanted to do it again, no matter what. I mean, in my
Yeah.
head, I was like, we'll be ready. And if we have to do a national show, that's what I want to start with for sure. So we did Cal State, and my feedback at that show was I had the most impressive, best physique hands down up on that stage, but it wasn't bikini. It was too shredded, too striated, too hard. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Like, it's a hard problem to have.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than, the opposite, of course. But I didn't win the overall. And, again, totally okay. And my teammate Cam won it. And I was
Oh,
so
that's
happy
cute.
for her because she's the best too. Side note. But so she had won the overall. But, I was like maybe 2, 3 weeks out from junior nats. And I was like, I didn't win the overall. Why am I going to nationals?
Mm.
There are girls going to nationals that won multiple overalls and didn't get their pro card, or they've been in it for longer, or all those
Right.
thoughts went through my head, and I was like, do I deserve to go there? And I will say it didn't last. The imposter syndrome didn't last too long because I knew I was bringing my best physique, no
Mhm.
matter what, like my best. And having that imposter syndrome and talking to Dylan and being like, do I belong up there? Because I didn't win. I
Yeah.
got second. That's cool. I'm so happy with it. I'm
Of
great. I'm
course.
so grateful for it, of course. But do I really belong up on a national stage if I didn't win?
Mhm.
And of course, his advice is, breathe through everything, ground yourself, write things down, share how you really feel during this time. And, I did that. I physically went outside, put my toes in the grass, grounded myself, understood like it's not always going to be perfect, but it's what you make out of it.
Right.
So I went into junior nats the most confident I ever have. And I think part of that is because, well, I knew I was bringing my best package, and that's my favorite physique of all time. Not even my pro card
Wow.
win. That was my favorite physique
Yeah.
that I've ever brought to stage. And I went into it just so confident and so happy with what I was bringing. And then as soon as, prejudging starts and all that, and we went through call outs, and I got moved, outside the top five and placed eighth. I was I was bummed. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
Mhm.
and again, it's not a knock on anybody.
Of
That's
course.
part of the sport. This is
Yes.
a part of it. And it's not like I was like, oh, the judges don't like me, it's no, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I moved to eighth place, and I walked off stage, and I had my moment. I went, if you've ever been to the convention center in Chattanooga, I went to like one of the corners with the
Uh-huh.
windows, and I cried. I was upset. And and it hurt so bad for me because I felt so good about that physique because it was literally it's still my favorite physique was that show.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. I got it all out and I was like, okay, breathe, on to the next. And
Mm.
so as I was standing there, I literally had my phone out and I was like, okay, what's the next show? USA's, let's book that. Like it was done. I understood. I knew I was going to be, the feedback was going to be too hard again. So
Mm.
I knew in my heart that we could bring a better bikini criteria package to the next show. So as I was standing over there, actually, I saw Zach come up and he let me like, he knows, and Dylan knows, like after prejudging, if it doesn't go, how you had hoped for or anything like that, give an athlete some space. They
Mhm.
need to process what they just went through. This entire prep of like 16 weeks going to a national stage or more, and that's you don't get the placing or whatever you had hoped for. Let the athlete have their space. I will just put that in there, for friends and family and support. Let them do their thing. But Zach did come up to me and gave me a big hug, and then I started crying again. I was like, you know what, it is what it is. And he had a letter from my mom, actually, because she couldn't go to the show. And like
Mm.
I said, she usually goes to a lot of the shows. And yeah, so Zach had a letter from my mom. He's like, "Do you want this now?" I was like, "Yeah, I do want this now." So I open it up, and I think no, it's back there somewhere. But in the card, it said, um, "There's don't give up. There's another one right around the corner. There's
Mm.
always another show around the corner." And that was my like validation. I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're doing USA's." Like that was signed, sealed, delivered. We're going to the next show.
Yeah.
My mom had said it, and I said it to myself before I even read that, and then that was our goal. And then I went to go find Dylan and all of that. But I did have that imposter syndrome from Cal State to junior Nats. And then I also had a little bit of that imposter syndrome from junior Nats to USA's, because you usually hear, oh, if you place top 5 at nationals, you should just go do another show because you're already top 5. You're in the mix, right? You're there. You're almost there. And so I was not in the mix.
Right.
I was outside the mix. I was like not in that bowl. And that's okay, right? So of course in my head it goes back to, well, I didn't get an overall win. I didn't place top 5, and we're doing another national show. So, the feedback again from junior Nats was I was too hard and I needed to fill out more. I needed to essentially add a layer of body fat, because I was just too lean. And I, again, knew we could do that. But I was like, I was outside the top 5. Why am I going to another show? And then I kind of let things go. To be honest with you, I was like, you know what? If this is my season, it's my season, but I'm going to give it all I got because I didn't come this far to just come this far.
Right.
And I think that is an important lesson for everybody, no matter what, if this is something you love and something you believe in and you believe in yourself, you owe it to yourself to keep going.
Mhm.
Of course, there are stipulations of how high your food is, how high your cardio is, where you are mentally. But since we were reversing for so long and my food had gotten astronomically high for me, I was in such a good physical and
Yeah.
mental space. So I could keep going. And I'm very, very grateful for that because if I hadn't been in that environment, I guess, with food, cardio, training, things probably would be a little bit different. But I was in such a open, transparent state of mind that yeah, we're doing USA's. I don't care if I place 8th. I'm gonna bring my best to the next show and focus on that one. And then we go from there. So definitely this was, like I said, the only season where I like was like, oh, this is imposter syndrome. This is what people talk about.
Yeah.
you know and that's okay. And
Yeah.
it's okay to have that feeling and feel the feels, and accept it.
I think what happens too, like you said, it's not really a hot topic because there seems to be this underlying judgment sometimes if an athlete says, I don't know if I can, or what if I don't, or it sometimes gets twisted into, well, you don't care, you don't believe
Mhm.
in yourself, you don't want it bad enough. When in reality, you want it really bad. You do believe in yourself because you're working at it every single day. It's just there's a level to it that feels a bit out of reach, especially when you go through a loss or you keep getting similar feedback despite efforts. So I feel like a lot of athletes don't always share that or they hide it because they don't want to seem like they're not as serious. They want to seem like, of course,
Yeah.
I'm going to get the pro card, and of course, I'm
Yeah.
believing. So I find it to be not glamorous because people don't want their intentions to be questioned. Just like people who say, oh, like, I want the pro, like for me now, I want the pro card, but
Hmm.
it's not like the end all be all of my life. Some people will hear that and be like, oh, she's not serious. She doesn't.
Oh yeah, she doesn't really want it. She's just here for the, and I think that goes back to like, what's your why? you
Right.
know, and really like hone in on why this matters to you.
Exactly.
And if you're doing this for Instagram and clout and things like that, and you're trying to be the I got this mentality, when in reality, you're suffering on the inside. You got to let that shit
Exactly.
out. you
Yes,
know, you got to figure
that's
yourself
right.
out, girl. Because if your why is strong enough, you
Hmm.
will accept those feelings and you will accept the
That's
placing and the
right.
feedback and everything, and you will apply it to the next one. You will learn from that experience. Maybe your why changes a little bit and you're like, oh, bingo, this is my why. And I think that plays a huge role in believing in yourself, what you really want, and accepting that failure happens. And without failures, you can't learn what success is.
Ooh, I really like how you said that it's easier, not maybe easier is not the right word, but you were insinuating that by knowing your why, when you experience a loss or you get feedback, it's not a knock on you. It's
Mm-mm,
more fuel, it's insight, it's motivation gained. It's not
absolutely.
a detriment.
No, it's something that should propel you forward. It's, you
Mhm.
know, that's like the biggest thing is, like we said, this whole podcast, like you're being judged and you're putting yourself out there. You need to have tough skin. You need to. And to have tough skin, you need to dig deep with who you are and find out what your why is. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess, dude.
Yeah,
You're going to be all over the place,
that's
and
the
it's
truth.
it's not going to be, and when you lose, which you will, it's not going to be as easy. And you're going to look at it
Mhm.
as a loss instead of a learning. And I think that's a big point for, even newer athletes too, and seasoned. It's like, you really, really got to dig deep on who you are.
Well, on that note, because that's really great
Yes.
advice. I mean, maybe that is your best advice. You've given such good advice throughout the entire podcast. So even if you repeat yourself, it's great. But
Okay.
do you have like, or what would be your best advice for someone who has never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
Uh, I obviously knew you were asking these
Of
questions.
course, you saw it
Of
coming. You've been
course.
preparing.
I, I was ready for these. No, but really for new competitors, I will say, live the lifestyle. Live it up a little bit. Whether, and I know multiple people on this podcast have said find a coach. So yes, obviously find a coach. But instead of going straight to stage, you know, live it a little bit. Go, make sure you are going to the gym and you are, essentially checking off some of those boxes. You understand, relationship with food. If you need help, reach out to Celeste.
Oh,
Like,
thank you. Wow.
oh, I just lost my thing.
We
Yeah.
didn't
So,
plan that, but I appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, there's so many resources out there that, I've heard horror stories of new competitors getting into the sport and not being prepared in a way with food or training or, anything like that. And then they're just like shocked, like, oh shit, like this is reality. Like, make sure you do live a little bit of that lifestyle. As they say, the stage will always be there. But find out who you are in this sport by being a student of the sport. Learn, learn your lessons along the way. And, if it's a bucket list item, that's a different story. But if you do want to get into the sport for the right reasons, really dig deep, like I said, find your why and, live that lifestyle just a little bit so you can understand and appreciate it a little bit more. I think that's a big deal, is being able to understand prep is a privilege. There's so many things we can be doing with our time, but we choose this. Cardio will get high, food will get low, your energy is going to go down. And, mentally preparing yourself as a new athlete or a beginner in this sport and learning to love the suck and get through it is going to be, you're going to skyrocket in your own life because you already set yourself up for success by being able to learn to lose. So living that lifestyle, understanding the aspects of the sport, and, kind of knowing what you're getting into a little bit before you just dive right in. And then, yeah, so that would be newbies, newbie info. And then for seasoned or not seasoned, but competitors on the road to pro. Road to pro. Don't give up. As cliche as that sounds, never give up on yourself. Believe in what you want to do. And it really comes from inside. It can't be a plastered thing on the wall or on your Instagram reel. You really gotta dig deep again and just believe in who you are. And another thing is get feedback. Get feedback from the judges. I mean, that they are judging. They are there to, obviously put you in your place, but also they're trying to help you better yourself for the sport. So, if the head judge, if Sandy's like, hey, you know what? You have everything. You just need size. You need to grow. Take the time to grow. You're not going to grow everywhere from one show to the next within, a few weeks. Take that season to grow. And if you're really in it for the right reasons, then you will deliver, execute, and bring those improvements that you were working on, that you were told to work on, and you will climb. And, you really you gotta find your why and make sure that, you execute on what you want outside of bodybuilding while staying inside bodybuilding. I know this is kind of like all over the place right now.
No, I'm following it. It's great.
You got to find your why and execute on that feedback. Take the time. Oh my gosh, take time. Time is on your side. Stage is going to be there. I know it's going to be there for me when I return. And I'm excited for when that happens.
Truly. Yeah, that's so good. And I'm really glad that you shared all of that. And of course, I want everybody to be able to reach out to you, connect with you, follow you. So how can they do that?
Yes. So I am mostly active on Instagram. So it's, I just changed my name. So
yes.
Allegra _ Lee, LEIGH _ IFBB pro. And then that's kind of like my main thing. I'm on Facebook under Allegra Brown. I know I have not changed my name yet to my new married name is Brown. My old name, my maiden name is Sims. So Allegra Sims or Allegra Brown. There's not too many Allegras, but but mostly Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes page, you guys. That's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you find how you can connect with us, but you'll also see a full summary of the episode, bulleted list of topics we covered, and episode timestamps so you can go back, listen to your favorite parts, or share it with your friends, your family, your teammates, let them know what resonated. And of course, if you feel so inclined to leave a review or share this on your stories, it goes such a long way for the show. It means a lot. And with all of that being said, I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Let's make it awesome.